Hey yo out there to all my big brothers, sisters, aunties, uncles, and of course, mommies and daddies. So, the past couple of uploads have been more on the heavier side of subject matter. I know y'all like listening to stuff that's more on the drama and commentary side of YouTube, but alas, I will never be contender for the world's strongest man competition. With some really tough stuff going on IRL for me right now, I figured it would be a good time to put out a bit more of a chill video. I tried scripting a video about my coming out story since it is Pride Month after all, but I don't think you guys have unlocked that event flag just yet, and I also got just incredibly depressed while trying to think about it. So here we are instead. I'm an artist. You guys like art. Well, hopefully you like art. I can't imagine you watching my videos just for this sultry and silken voice of mine. Today, I thought I'd treat you guys to some personal pet peeves of mine when it comes to art. In reality, I don't have all that many when it comes to artists themselves or their work. I also really don't want to put anyone down if I call something they do shit because, believe you me, as someone who posted art to anonymous forums for the first half of his life, I know how bunked that can feel. Maybe one day I'll talk about proper art techniques that I've learned, but for now, here's some things that just really grind my gears when it comes to the art community and art in general. Number 1. The belief that using reference is a sin, and the belief that any amount of tracing is a hangable offense. I have no idea where the idea that referencing is bad even came from, though I do see a hell of a lot of it on DeviantArt. Some artists tout their ability to draw without reference as a way to say, hey, I'm better than you who have to look at something to get it right. Even though, a lot of the time, the art suffers for it. Reference in doing studies for various subjects, be it shoes, hands, hair, smoke, or what have you, net only helps you grow as an artist. I know there's a big stigma and fear that some people, though especially younger artists, have when it comes to using reference. But we need to kill the thought that looking at something to understand a pose or to see how a certain type of fabric looks makes you somehow lesser. I mean, not using reference is how you end up with the dog from JoJo, which is great for the meme, but absolutely petrifying in any other context. So, to be entirely clear, reference. Freely reference any image and photo. Study what you're trying to draw, and it will be so much easier and create much better results. This is an entirely different story from copying someone else's work by, entirely recreating their piece, but that's a discussion for a different video and a different day. Now, the stigma for tracing is tenfold what it is for referencing, which I can totally get. When you hear about tracing in the online artosphere, it's usually a discussion of some artist tracing another person's work and selling it off as their own, or tracing and pulling an original character do not steal. In those contexts, yeah, tracing is no good. This can be a hot take though, even if every industry professional says it too, but not all types of tracing are bad. Bad tracing is going line for line over someone else's work and claiming it as your own. It's tracing someone else's work to be a base without any credit while also claiming it as your own, and basically boiling down to claiming creatorhood over someone else's work and rubbing your greedy little feeties over it while doing your best Gollum impression. However, the correct way to trace can be really tricky, not gonna lie. I personally still believe that you should never trace over someone else's work to create your own or use as a base, but I believe tracing can be a healthy tool for growth and faster production in some cases. Like, you know how Clip Studio Paint has all sorts of 3D models that are specifically made to help art creation go faster? Go fucking nuts, my dude. Trace 1,000 desks, trace a stack of books, trace plates and teapots until you have the ability to draw them on your own without any help. The tools are there to be used in exactly that way. Similarly, royalty-free resources and stock images can be referenced and sometimes traced the same way. However, if you want to trace one of those, you need to check the poster's permissions. Stock photos are usually pay-to-use, and royalty-free images may require credit if you're going to use them, even when following all these rules. The biggest advice I could ever give in tracing people, at the very least, is to do it in a transformative way. That's how you should do all tracing, but it's especially important when you're doing people. 3D elements and props like instruments are one thing, but you really shouldn't trace a human body and just go from there. Not unless you want to end up with a Greg Land Iron Man situation anyway. Now, this is just my opinion, but tracing human forms and making it not look entirely whack for your style should be done by tracing the basic shapes and noting where the joints and how each of them attach. Then, use that basic outline or skeleton you've created as reference to make your own art. It might take longer, but it actually helps you learn anatomy and how to create similar work in the future without the need to trace anything. For example, sometimes I trace my own hand or arm if the first few attempts don't go well. Usually I'll use that trace as reference to go off of since my style is more Dream Daddy anime cartoonish and my real-life anatomy is incredibly whack because of my Belgian Hobbit heritage. But I digress. The main point here is that tracing on its own isn't evil or a sin. Just don't do it in a stealing way. Ooh, that was a long one. So, let's get through these next ones a little faster, eh? Number 2. Criticism given when not asked for, and criticism not given when begged for. Getting unwanted criticism stings. If you post a piece you were very proud of just to say, hey look, I made this, and someone comes along and says XYZ is wrong with it, that feels bad. Especially if your prior happiness with the work goes entirely unmentioned with I can tell you put a lot of effort into this sort of comment. Artists of all kinds need criticism to be able to grow, and honestly, I'm really happy that when I asked for critique on the audio of my last video, since I was trying something new, a few people actually gave me suggestions that I intend to try in this one. But when all people do with your work is criticize it when all you're trying to do is have fun, that can be very disheartening. Now, the second half is something that is a lot less prominent, but was a problem that I ran into a lot when I got to a certain point with my art. I would ask for criticism, but I wouldn't get any because at the time there wasn't anything glaringly wrong with my artwork. That also meant there wasn't anything inherently special about it either. It was just bland and average, and it stagnated that way for a good long time. I wound up instead looking at other people's work and finding aspects in it that I liked and wanted to try out, and that worked pretty well. I am very happy with my art now, but I'm also trying hard every day to learn new techniques and get better. Though, that absolutely isn't an invitation to go on my art posts and comment criticism either. I will be asking for it at some point, but just not right now, thank you. Number 3. The tendency to devalue other forms of art. For some reason, there tends to be the idea that many have of valuing traditional painting and art forms over any other. I have a feeling it stems from people just not understanding how computers and digital art techniques work, there seems to be this idea that you just press a button and bam, level lamps. You have a finished and beautiful piece. But so much more goes into it than that. I will say though that even I myself can see the draw in buying physical art that you can hold. Like, you can examine it up close and go over every detail and just stare at it for hours. I mean, that's not just me, right? The main thing is that all art forms are valid and have their own unique skill set that you need to abide by. Nothing is just magically easier than something else. Finally, at the top of my most irritating art-related grievances, number 4. People who try to haggle prices for artwork. My prices are semi-negotiable, so that if someone can't pay all at once, I can work with them for a payment plan, or find a compromise for what they want at a cheaper price, which usually results in certain quality factors being given up for that price. But the way some people just have the audacity to slide into DMs or a comment section to haggle is so fucking infuriating. No, fine sir, I will not take $15 for your big, fat, mommy milkers OC drawing with fully rendered color and a detailed background. You either pay me full price plus the lewd art gratuity, or you can find someone else to draw it. Oh? You're gonna call me a bitch when I politely tell you that drawing something that takes that much effort for such a low price would mean paying myself well under minimum wage? I am terribly sorry, sir. Can I instead direct you to this not at all suspicious rug that absolutely is not covering a spike pit? Ugh. There's a special place in hell for people who feel entitled to your artwork. And by God, I'm gonna put them there myself if I lose my domestication. Anyways, I do have a few more pet peeves with art communities, but this video is already long enough as it is. I'm doing my best to keep my upload schedule while my dad's in the hospital, but I'll preemptively apologize just in case I miss an upload. This shit is hella stressful, and you know a bitch keeps forgetting to take his stabilizers with everything going on. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want. As always, you don't have to, but if you do, I'll get to see you in the next video. I hope you have a scrap-dangulous day. Later, skater. It broke my desk. I'm going to become the Joker.